I'm helping them create business on their terms. Tax is not compulsory. You have to understand the concept of the strawman theory and realize that you are not that capitalized corporation. It's like our duty to not participate in the war, and the government is funding illegal war activities.
What would you do for me as a setup, knowing that I have an online coaching business? Hi, and welcome to this new episode of The Light Leaders, today with Abbey Rose, aka the spiritual accountant. And you're also the CEO of Awakened Accountants. You're a global leader in conscious wealth. And Abbey empowers entrepreneurs to break free from outdated financial systems and embrace financial sovereignty. Your mission is to help leaders build legacy-driven businesses that blend practical finance with spiritual wisdom. And I love having you today because I find sometimes a little bit hard to bridge the spiritual world and the very details of building a business and all this. So I think this podcast is going to be very valuable for those of us who are wanting to bring that new us, bring that 5D consciousness, but doing it in a practical way. So thank you so much, Abby, for being here today. And my first question to you is, what are you grateful for today?
Today I am grateful. Today I am grateful. But first of all, Alex, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm very excited for this conversation. What am I grateful for today? I'm grateful for being alive. I had this beautiful yoga session, and it was connecting with my crown chakra and feeling the energy move through my entire body and just being of service with that energy and showing up for people to activate their crown. So I'm just grateful for being on this planet and serving humanity at this level. So today's been a really beautiful day. So thank you so much for asking that question. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. And I know we can't share names because of the confidentiality, but you're working with a lot of top leaders in the space. You also have 5,000 people in your community. So definitely excited. I actually came across your booth when I was at Freedom Fest like 6 years ago in Brisbane.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like the spiritual content that bridging of world. And actually, that's something that's been very alive for me because at some point, I was almost wondering, should I be creating the new us or should I be building a business? How do I combine these two? And having all these kind of concerns of like, okay, if I build a business, does that mean I need to get deeper into the matrix? Does that mean I need to be entangled much more with the tax systems and a lot of systems I don't really want to be part of? So that's actually an exciting discussion for me. I'd love to start with this actually, because you say you help people build a business while exiting the matrix. So how does that work?
Yes. So there is the financial economy and the current system that exists on the planet Earth. It's a global system. And think of it like, well, you mentioned you saw me at Enagic. So think of it like an Enagic business. It's just this massive MLM business structure, but instead of hierarchies of consultants, it's hierarchies of politicians in states, in separate states and jurisdictions. So it's a very complex business structure, and we are signed up to it unknowingly. So the process of creating a business doesn't have to be within those systems and structures. And I think this is the process of unlearning, because the way that we're told to get a job, get a tax file number, go to work, then we start building some experience, and many spiritual leaders soon recognize that employment doesn't actually work for them. They like to be free. They like to be their own boss. They like to govern themselves. They like to be the creator in their life. So this is where employment may not be suitable. So that's why they want to move into a business, because of that freedom element. But then when you move into business, there's all of this stuff. Like when you set up a business, you go to an accountant or you Google online as like, how do I set up a business? And it actually is quite quick, applying for an ABN and a tax file number. You can have a business set up in 15 minutes, but no one tells anyone how to run it. And most people are going to accountants who are tax agents, registered agents for the government. And these tax agents and accountants are telling people that they have to do all of these registrations and these licenses and insurances and compliance and obligations. And it's like, it's nearly too complex. All I wanted to do was serve in my creative ways. Like, why have I got to do all of this stuff? So when I help people create business, I'm helping them create business on their terms. And for some business owners, it's not being part of any of it. And this is what I truly believe New Earth business to be. And this is why we've created the free trade economy and a group of people who are really driving solutions for communities
Mm,
through this space. So at its very core, we are forgetting about compliance and forgetting about all of the sort of red tape that's involved in going back to basics of like, why are you even in business? Why? What's the purpose for you being in business? Now, sure, finance is, financial security is an element of that. But at the heart of the matter, especially with light workers, it's being of service. We're of
mm,
service to humanity. So I feel like it's coming back to that.
mm.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of unlearning in there.
Yeah, I love that. And before we go into more the practicalities, I can feel that it can be for some people, it's been for me and might still be a hurdle to actually grow the business and make money and be fully thriving, to have that conscious or subconscious limitation
Yeah.
around,
The more money
well,
I
I'll
make,
speak
the
for
more.
myself, thinking the more money I'll make, the more I'll be in like tax papers and in all these complications. It's going to really complexify my life. So for someone who's about freedom, there's an element of making money that brings freedom, but in my mind, there's also an element of making money that's just going to make my life more complicated. And so if you
Exactly.
can make it that more simple, that's very valuable.
Absolutely, because that is a belief system, and I work with people around that belief system because more money, more money comes responsibility, yes, but complication, it doesn't have to be complicated.
Mm.
We can make it really simple and effortless to manage. And then once you start embodying those new behaviors that are free from all of the compliance, this is where you get to grow and it gets to be fun.
Yeah, thank you, Abby. And that's been a topic interest that's been of interest for me. I've looked into people who talk about like strawmanship and maritime law and all the things, like the government is actually a corporation, and when you're born, your name is in capital letters, is actually a corporation, and you actually don't need, like, you don't have to pay tax, or you don't have to obey that system. I'm not really deep into that. We won't go too deep today into that, but do you want to speak a little bit about that? For example, are we actually bound to pay tax in Australia when you were born in Australia or in the
Yeah.
US?
Yeah, so this is the myth busting side of me that loves to come out. So yeah, tax is not compulsory. One of the common beliefs is, the only thing in life that is certain is death and taxes. And I can bust both those myths with my spirituality and my accounting background. So um in short, yes, the strawman theory is the basis and the foundation to this work. And you have to understand the concept of the strawman theory and realize that you are not that capitalized. corporation. And yes, it's a corporation, a dead entity, a corpse in the public sector, and the public sector is created for profit. So when we move into the private sector is created for people, and you become the living. So this is the law of duality. We have the living and the dead at the same time. Yeah. So they coexist, and we are in this matrix. There is blue pill, there is red pill, but I'm the purple pill. So I help you understand both sides of the coin so you can make a decision. What parts of the system do you want to utilize, and what parts do you not want to utilize? And what do you want, what do you want for your future? So understanding that you as a living, breathing human, you are the crown in right through your energy comes through your crown chakra direct from God source, universe, whatever, right? It comes through, and it's how we give this energy in the world. Right? We give and receive in perfect balance. So this is how you're remunerated for that. So you need to understand that you is also plural, living and dead. We have the strawman, we have that trust, we have that dead entity. Let's govern it accordingly. But then when we want to create wealth, let's create wealth for the living, not for the dead.
Amazing. So now I'm getting curious about how you set it up and the practicalities. For example, I live in Bali. I'm now registered here. I left Australia and from the ATO. And then when I do get online payments through Stripe, I set up an organization in the UK. Actually,
Right.
it's like a limited partnership there. And then I've been part of organizations also who leverage the faith-based organization in the US. That's how, for example, if you're a native, you can drink peyote or ayahuasca legally, right? And so when you have a faith-based organization like this, you're meant to have a lot of rights. I've also been interested in new countries like Liberland. I don't know if you follow that, but that want to do a super liberal country where you can have your company registered. I know some people are Estonian resident. So, like, how
Yeah.
does it work when I'm really passionate about my purposeful business? I want to grow it, and I don't want to uh, get complications basically with
Yeah,
the
of
tax
course.
system and
Yeah, of
the red
course,
tape.
right. So you've mentioned a lot of different countries. So imagine each country is its own jurisdiction, and each country has its own rules, right? It has its own laws. So when you go into each country and you establish a structure, it's under that jurisdiction. So the faith-based in the US is under the amendments. In the UK, it's under Crown. So this is the thing. When I establish people into the private sector, we don't establish them into any jurisdiction. We actually
Mm.
create our own jurisdiction under international law. So that's globally. So we're creating our own government, our own governance, so that we can roam the entire world. It doesn't matter where we are, but we are self-governed and self-determined by our own structure, no matter where we are. And we create the rules. Now, sometimes those rules, right, will counteract the jurisdiction that you're located in, right? So if you're in America and you have your PMA, the roles in your PMA, which stands for Private Members Association, can counteract any of the laws over there that we don't want to follow. Or any of if you're over in the UK, there would be UK legislation and it can counteract. Now, here in Australia, we have nailed the international law with the PMAs. The PMAs over in America are attached to the amendments, whereas ours are attached to the Crown. And the Crown is us, and we can roam under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We have freedom to move across the entire globe, and we have freedom of association. So we create this association and move freely for trade and commerce.
And is that actually honored by the old paradigm?
Honored? No. Is it honored? No, they hate it. They do not honor it. They do not like it because the system's crumbling because of it.
But what I mean by that is, does it actually work? Because, for example, I know some people, they have, okay, you opt out and you get your global citizen passport
Oh, yes,
because
I've heard of that.
this and that. But then when you go to the airport, well, it's not going to work, and then,
Oh, is it recognized? Recognition.
yeah,
Okay, for
yeah,
sure. For sure, for sure. So passports are a little bit different because that is travel, right? And when you're dealing with passports, there's a jurisdiction on the passport. So those world global passports, it's a bit shaky as to whether or not, because you've got your meeting with the government and they've got to, give you that green tick. So travel hasn't fully been cracked, I could say. If I'm traveling, I'm using my Australian passport, right? So when we're creating a PMA, though, this is not for travel. This is for commerce. This is for business. This is for trade. So if you say wanted to travel to another country, you can use your passport to travel to that country, but you're still choosing to do trade and commerce in your own jurisdiction. So when you go to that country and you set up your business and you do trade freely, right, within the confines of your PMA. Now that bank account that is associated with your PMA, it might be established in Australia, or we have PMAs in New Zealand, we have PMAs over in Canada as well, and Mexico as well. Personally, we haven't done the US because the PMA has the US amendment. So I have some consultants that I refer people to for over there. But yeah, there's a lot of countries that we are working with, and it's for business. Yeah, travel's kind of a different topic.
okay. And then with that, for example, you can basically operate as a normal business. You can get Stripe payments, you can open bank accounts. Like, are there any
Yeah.
limitations?
Well, it is different, right? So the type of Stripe accounts and the type of bank accounts that you open can be different. And over the years, processes changed. And as things shift and move in the marketplace, we shift and move with it, right? Because the banks right now, like I think everybody can agree, banking is getting very hard, even if you're in the public. They're putting more KYC, they're putting digital IDs on it. People's bank accounts, if they're moving out to crypto wallets or DeFi wallets, they're getting shut down. Like, it's the banking regulations it's closing in, and people are actually losing trust in the banks. And I'm seeing that a lot. So we're starting to see these independent banks pop up, especially in the DeFi space. But we're working towards creating a community organization that is a bank, right? So it's not an MLM, but it's a community organization. So the bank and the credit union is created under international jurisdiction. And then we actually have the decentralized finance held in that bank to benefit the members. So there's lots of things popping up all over the place, and there's always options. But yes, we have mostly all of our PMA accounts in Australia. I've established in Canada, in New Zealand, in Mexico as well. I got a few clients in Bali also, but they have Australian PMA accounts, and it's fine. We also have international wallets as well that we can be using too. So it's just finding the right structure that suits you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And let's get practical actually on this. And that's something I like by having a podcast, is I can ask people like you directly questions um, for my organization and for my sake, but knowing that a lot of the viewers might have the same questions. So getting that really practical question answer sometimes is even better, even for the viewer, the listener, to get their answers. And now, before I ask you, I'll do a little parenthesis here, which is I've absolutely loved having a podcast for many reasons, and one of them is to learn a lot from my guests, but also being able to ask them questions directly. So it's something when we think about podcasts, it's like, oh, the branding and getting leads and getting views and connecting with people, and this is amazing. But sometimes you can have almost like a free session with someone that maybe would, have expensive consultations or things like this. So I appreciate you also for showing up and doing that. And also, I'm a podcast coach. So if the viewers want to start a podcast and want to have all these benefits, also, you can reach out to me. I put a link in the description and we can have a talk about that. And of course, if you feel this is an important topic, please share, like, comment. And I'll answer to all the comments in the YouTube channel. But now back to us, I'd love to ask you. So my business is this. I'm a podcast coach. It's online. I help people build their podcast. What would you do for me as a setup, knowing that I have an online coaching business?
For sure. Well, that would be easy. I would establish you into a PMA so that you could run your coaching business, but I would want to just do a little bit more of a deep dive with you into the purpose and the mission around the podcast. And because you're the light leaders, I feel like there's a huge element here of you being a platform for leaders of the 5D New Earth to share what they're doing and how they're doing so other people can see that it's actually possible. Because I think a lot of light leaders, they actually don't think it's possible, or they think that some of those, the amount of money that they can earn is just, but how, or they think the amount of people that they can reach, it's going to come with some unknown cost to them, and so then they give up on those dreams, or they give up. So I think by having this podcast, really diving in deeper to that core mission for the light leaders, and anchoring that and really driving that structure from this place, then yeah, we could absolutely move you into a PMA. Right. So that would be setting up a structure. And this structure, it doesn't have an ABN or a TFN. And it comes with paperwork, and you take that paperwork to the bank and you can set up an account. You can set up Stripe accounts as well, but we have to work with you on the operation side of it, because it's not just setting up a structure and doing the same thing that you were doing in the public sector. It's very different. So there's different ways of managing it. So when you have a PMA, there's elements of the PMA that you need to learn about. The important elements is the legal side of it. And this is the safety for you. So you're not relying on me to protect you, because the paperwork provides a level of protection, but it's how you then govern yourself and how you govern the community that you create and how you show up in service. And that requires some leadership skills, and it requires you to be self-led in that space. So we've just got to create some like the bylaws in your PMA. So how are you going to show up for your community, and how are they going to show up for you? What's the culture of the podcast, and the culture of your life even? And then in the event that there is any kind of disputes in the community, then how is that going to be handled? And how do we show up as humans? So I guess the old way of business is relying on accountants and solicitors and relying on these agreements that are crafted for us. But those agreements are crafted in a very special way. They're written by members of the Bar Association, and they are overcomplicated, overcomplex, and it just goes over so many. And this is why, because the solicitors, they profit of conflict. So when we're creating a PMA, we're creating our bylaws and our agreements. We're just being open-hearted humans and speaking into how we want to show up. So I call that mutual integrity. We have confidentiality, but we pull it from here. We pull it from here. And, we can put the language in the context, but generally it only takes, an hour or two. And then as things shift and move in your community and in your business, we might do little updates here and there. But I feel like, a lot of people think that it's so hard to run a business because we have to think of all the law and consumer and confidentiality and terms and this and that and this and that. We can bring it back to basics because ultimately we just want to do business as a good human being, caring, compassionate, being authentic and in integrity. And, in the event that there's not that, then okay, let's be adult humans and talk about it and figure out, well, where was the breakdown and how can we fix this? And I think that's how business should be. And when we run business from that place, we make a bigger impact. Yeah. I
Thank
hope
you,
that
Abby.
answered the
That's really
question. I'm
beautiful.
sorry, I
Yeah,
went on
yeah.
a bit of a tangent
Yeah, it does. That's beautiful. But and so then in that uh, PMA, so I'm understanding this kind of a vetting process. You want to make sure the values are aligned when you join that.
for sure.
And then with my business, I would be part of this kind of new jurisdiction. What are the are there taxes there, or what are the? So it's only like having kind of those values, and then
Yeah.
no tax.
So when you move into your own jurisdiction, right? So when you move into a PMA, basically you are pledging, right? So through a social compact agreement, right? So you're making a pledge or an oath to move into this new jurisdiction. So when you're in this jurisdiction, you become the crown in right? You are the crown. You are the person, you are the sole responsibility. So you are the asset. You are through your crown chakra, right? Your direct connection to God, you are governed by God. So no one can intervene, right? So essentially, it started with God. God created man and woman. Man and woman created the queen, the pope, the institutions, the governments. So the queen, the pope, the institutions, and the governments created the person. So this is where you're sitting in the public, the person, the legal identity. So when we move into the PMA, we're going back up to the living, breathing man or woman through their direct connection to God.
Mhm.
So we're removing all that governance bullshit created by the public sector. So you become self-governed and self-determined. You have self-determination. So in your jurisdiction, there is no tax. However, I do believe that under universal law of reciprocity, there is tithing, right? We pay tithing. So if you're not in the tax system, then in your PMA, how are you giving back to community? How are you serving community? So if you wanted to break down, like I've gone in massive audits of the tax system and the government appropriations and government spending, and it's not going where we think it's going. Right. So this is where I believe these 5D businesses, these new earth businesses that move into this space, that start giving back and they're able to hold their money that they create and not give it
Mhm.
away to the government, they can then invest more into communities. So this is an important element to have that mission and that purpose that you can drive forward.
Thank you, Abby. I love that because I've been following a little bit the libertarian movement, reading books like Seasteading and Seasteading Institute, wanting to, and to me, libertarian not in the way that you don't want to pay tax, but actually that you want to opt in and potentially be in a community where you pay a lot of tax, but you've opted in because you want to actually give it and you know where it's going and you agree with that. And so I love the idea of not necessarily not paying tax out of greed or keeping as much as you want, but also understanding where it goes, because it's almost sometimes I feel an anti good thing to do to pay tax when I see where it goes, right? So I don't know where you stand on that, but for me,
Yeah,
it's
for
been like,
sure.
well, when you're in the old matrix, it's like pay your tax so we build roads and children go to schools. Fair enough. But when you awaken, it's also, well, those taxes go a lot also to wage wars and to
For sure.
pharmaceuticals and a lot of
So
things that don't
I
align with.
just, yeah, I just did a deep dive into this. So I did some audits on that and the appropriations. Now, I'm not against tax, not at all, because it does fund community initiatives. And I've actually been in part of the communities and free services that the government have provided in times of absolute need. So there is absolutely the light side of the system. So I'm not fully against tax, but I do believe reforms are needed, because I had a look at the government appropriations and they said that over the next 10 years, there's going to be $330 billion allocated to the Defense Force. Then I went to the actual figures of the defense spending, and in the 2024 tax year, defense spent $54 billion. Now, I then found another projection of the defense spending where they said the projected spending for defense is 330 to 450 billion dollars over the next 10 years. But if the actual spending for this year was 54, and it's going to be more every year, because it will be, because 2014 taxes was at 300 and something thousand, and 10
Mhm.
years later, taxes 756,000 revenue, right? So that's doubled, right? So the spending in defense is only going to increase. So you even times that current year, 54,000 by 10 years, and we've got a lot of money going to defense. So when I looked at that, and this is one of the things that we also, it's like our duty. It's like our duty to not participate in the war. And the government is funding illegal war activities. And this money is going towards things that are so inhumane and so wrong. And it's our money that's funding this. And this is, the Prime Minister has been reported to the ICCC for war crimes. And we do have a war crime letter to get out of tax as your duty of an Australian citizen. So, this is a big topic, and I'm very passionate about it because I see what's happening. What's in mainstream media is so far from the truth of what's actually happening, and we are the ones funding it. It's our taxpayers' dollars. And why are we funding wars when people are literally putting water in their shampoo bottle to make it last longer? The economy is struggling. People are struggling. We need to be putting money back into people in our own country and not funding these illegal activities. So I get very passionate about that. And I've looked at the data, and, the math just doesn't math.
Yeah, thank you. It's good that you've done an actual deep dive into it, because I feel it's something a lot of people kind of know and feel, but having someone who goes and puts the numbers on it is good, because sometimes our perceptions are flawed, right? But apparently it's not in that case.
Yeah, it's sad. It's very sad.
Mm.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
feel
thank you.
like the I'm not against tax, but I do believe we need reform. We need to be putting more money into our people.
Mm. Mm. I love that. And going back to also me asking you when to, like, how to do with a coaching business, for example, and you've given me the that advice. I'd love to ask you also, when is the right time? And I'll ask you because on one hand, a part of me feels like at the moment I'm still in fairly early. stage of my coaching business and building the revenue. And so I feel where I'm focusing on the sales, I'm focusing on growing the business. And when I have more time and financial resources, I can like hire an accountant or do things better. But on another way, I also think, well, maybe I should lay the foundation right now. So not only I do it in the right way, administratively speaking, but also in terms of mindset, I don't have any limiting beliefs stopping me. So like when is the right time? And do you have also offers that are catered to smaller businesses?
For sure, absolutely. Because this was a big thing for me, right? I was seeing how I was moving people, establishing people into the private, and they weren't quite ready. They maybe didn't have the resources. And then I was also seeing people that had been living a free and sovereign life, and establishment was just the next step, right? So I have a varying range of offers, but it really depends on your financial situation. Like it really depends on where you're at. The biggest thing I took from that question is when you said hire an accountant, right? So this is what I would want to go into with you, and it's that outsourcing, right? It's that outsourcing the idea that you need someone else to tell you what to do. And actually, when we can connect to your business and connect to your legacy, you know what to do. And if you just have the proper a system that works for you for financial management, you can then grow your wealth and grow your revenue and grow your money. And then usually, I would say, if you were looking at it from a system perspective, once you start making $3,000 to $4,000 a month, maybe $5,000 a month, $7,000 a month, then we could look at restructuring you. But just staying as a sole trader, just for simplicity, and just going, you know what, I'm a sole trader. I'm just going to keep trading. I'm going to focus on making money. I'm going to implement a system that works for managing that so I can grow it. And then once I, give yourself a target, once I start hitting this each month, then I'll look into restructuring. But a lot of people get so overwhelmed with all of it, and they're just like, what do I do? Where do I go? What do I set up? So this is where I love to offer services to really take all of that nonsense out of financial management. Because people go to accountants and you leave those meetings and you're like, I'm so confused. I feel so dumb. I feel like they said all of these words that I don't understand, and now I'm an idiot. And that's not true. That is so not true. Financial management is different for everybody. So I've created a system, and it's so simple, and it's not cookie cutter, but we can create this system and implement it for you. So you've just got a structure for money to flow to you.
Mm.
So then you don't have to worry about registrations. You don't have to worry about profit and loss or balance sheet. You don't have to worry about BAS. You don't have to worry about budgets. Budgets are bullshit. I like to say this is just cash flow, cash management, and it's really simple. So yeah, I'm actually running my next business metrics in December. I launched some dates. So I do it live. I also have it pre-recorded, depending on what people like. But business metrics is really taking all that guesswork out of
Mm.
running your business metrics and just learning how you can scale using these metrics. But we have to put that system in place, right?
Amazing. And I guess we can put links in the description also if people want to go deeper into that, right? I'd, yeah. I'd love to ask you also, because you talked about decentralized finance, and I've been quite deep into cryptos. I'm wondering, how much do you feel using decentralized cryptos and decentralized finance the future, and how do you integrate it in the business?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely see it as the future. If you look at XRP and the technology that they provide, and the blockchain technology and smart contracts, this is banking future, and the ability to be your own bank is available to everyone right now. It already is there, but most people don't know that technology exists or even how to use it. And I think in the crypto and DeFi space, there's a lot of things popping up. So this is where your due diligence is very much required, and you have to know what you're getting yourself into. And this is why self-governance and being self-led is so important, because if you put all your eggs in one basket and something happens in that space and you lose those eggs, nothing can happen. And I hear so many stories of people losing money because they've put it into wallets overseas or run by these people. And then, something happens at the top and the whole thing closes down and people lose their life savings. So it's still in its early stages. So we have to be cautious, but I do see it as the future. And especially when you start learning about what currency even is, right? And if you look at money, right, money is, our physical, tangible money, like Australian currency, it's debt. It's a debt note. It's backed by debt. The government create debt to print money. So when I see decentralized finance and cryptocurrency, and then the potentiality of having an asset-backed currency, this really benefits people, because instead of trading with debt money, we can trade with asset money. And that's exciting because we are the asset and we want to be the asset. And I think there's going to be more cryptos popping up that are gold backed currencies. You can see China is buying up gold, like they're selling off the US dollar like it's going out of fashion. So I ask why. And China is a huge tech space. So they know what's up. They know what's up. And I feel like this gold backed currency, it's not going to be one place. Banking is not going to be one place. You're not going to just be able to bank with banks. And we're moving into a free market of banking and managing our assets. So education is really, really important. Making sure you know what you're getting yourself involved in, making sure you get paperwork and read the paper. This, I can't stress enough. Read the fine print. And if you don't understand it, ask questions. And if the people providing the paperwork cannot answer those questions, ask more questions. Doesn't matter how silly you feel, ask as many questions as you like. If still you're confused, maybe go to someone that you trust and get them to help you understand. But so many times I've seen people put large sums of money into things without any paperwork, and that's just reckless. So yeah, it's important. It's just really important, but definitely DeFi is the way forward. I agree wholeheartedly. I'm all for asset-backed currencies.
Thank you, Abby. And also to the viewer, if you want to dive into crypto, 3, 4 years ago, I did a lot of podcasts about it. So you can go in the search on YouTube and find on this. But it looks like it's a good time for it. Now we're recording. Trump got elected a couple of days ago, and Bitcoin just hit a
Yeah.
new all-time high. So it's going to be an interesting future ahead of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. A lot of people, they think the sky is falling. They think the banks are going to collapse. The sky is falling, doomsday. And I'm just like, I'm excited because I know what is valuable in our economy is resource, and the opportunities that are available to us right now. There's so much. There's so much of it. You've just got to be on the right side of the market.
Thank you so much, Abby. Yeah. And that's been a really insightful conversation. I've learned a lot. Thank you so much. And also to the viewer, if you want to share your main takeaway in the comments of the comment section of the YouTube, please do. And Abby, it's been such a pleasure. So as mentioned, I'll put the links in the description for people who want to go deeper. And I'd love to ask you, is there anything else that you'd like to share with me and with the viewers?
Oh, yeah, I think it's just as the light leader, yeah, as the light leader on earth at this time, you know, if you even don't know what that mission or legacy is, and there's a calling, something is calling you forward, like even the smallest flame can defy the biggest darkness. So just go into that calling. And what is that? At the core of the heart of the matter, your soul knows what you're here for. Your soul knows what you're here for. So it's now is the time to start creating that, because it's not about you anymore. It's got nothing to do with you, and it's got everything to do with humanity and what's needed on this earth at this time. We are the ones that are leading the way, innovating the way. So we have to create. We have to create this new way. We have to do it, physically do it. So yeah, just that little calling forward there. If you felt that,
Amazing.
yeah.
Beautiful. I love it. We're the choosing ones. We're the ones we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Abby, and thank you to everyone who listened and viewed this episode. Much love
Thank
to everyone.
thank you.